students, welcome back to our channel. I am Ramakrishna, your mathematics teacher. And as we all know that we were discussing the topic pair of linear equations in two variables. So let us have a quick recap on this topic before we proceed with the further questions. Okay. So as we all know, the general form of a pair of linear equations in two variables is given by a1x plus b1y plus c1 equals to 0 and a2x plus b2y plus c2 is equals to 0. So this is nothing but our general form of a pair of linear equations in two variables, where we can see that the values of a1, b1, c1, a2, b2 and c2 are real numbers, and a1, a2, b1, b2 can never be equals to 0. So this was our general form of a pair of linear equation in two variables, and then we understood the different methods with the help of which we can find the solution of a pair of linear equation in two variables. So starting with, we had the graphical method, correct? So we had the graphical method where we can easily find out the values of x and y by drawing the graph. We can plot it, like we can plot the graph and we can get the values. Okay, so that is the graphical method. And then we have something called as the algebraic methods. Okay, so then we have something called as the algebraic methods. So we are having three types of algebraic methods, my dear students. So firstly we have substitution method. Then the next like algebraic method is the elimination method, and finally we have the cross multiplication method, right? So these are the three algebraic methods that we have. Okay. So in the previous class I had asked you a question, right? So if we are having like graphical method which already existed to find the solution of pair of linear equations, then why there was a need of finding the algebraic methods? Okay. So the answer to this question is very simple, my dear students. So we can have like equations where the roots, or we can say the values of the variables x and y, we can get them as irrational numbers. Okay, and plotting irrational numbers on the graph is going to be really tough. Why? Because irrational numbers have a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal expansion. So if we are trying to plot those on the graph, it would be really difficult for us to get the accurate point to draw the graph. Correct? And that is the reason we were introduced to the algebraic methods of finding the solution of a pair of linear equations in two variables. Okay. So now after this we have discussed like the types of solutions, right? So we are having three types of solutions, my dear students. So firstly we can have unique solution. Then we can have infinitely many solutions. And finally we are having no solution. Okay, so these are three types of solutions that we can have. So unique solution, so it exists for the lines which are going to be intersecting. So whenever two lines are intersecting, we are going to have a unique solution. Then infinitely many solutions, it is going to be for the coincident lines. If we are having two lines which overlap on one another, so we can say that we are going to have infinitely many solutions. And finally, for two parallel lines which are not at all going to meet, so we can say they have no solution. Correct? So this was a quick recap on the topic pair of linear equation in two variables. So now let us start with some interesting questions which we are going to focus on the examination. Alright, so let us see the first question of today. So here we can see a question. The lines represented by the equations 4x plus 5y minus 10 and 8x plus 10y plus 20 are. So are they intersecting lines? Are they perpendicular lines to each other? Are they coincident lines, or are they parallel lines? ಸೊ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ ತರವಾದ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ರೀಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವಿವಾಗ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡು ಮೈ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ವಿ ರೈಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ದ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ a1 b1 c1 a2 b2 and c2. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಇನ ಮೂಲಕ a1 ನ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ, b1 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಮತ್ತೆ c1 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್, a2 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್, b2 ಮತ್ತೆ c2 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯೋಣ. Okay, so yes, we are having 4x plus 5y is equals minus 10 is equals to 0, my dear students. Howda? So idaralli let us now write down the values of a1, b1 and c1. Okay, so a1 enagutte makale, so a1 is going to be equals to, yes, it is going to be 4. So a1 is 4. Then what about b1? b1 is going to be 5. Very good. b1 is going to be 5. And what about c1? c1 obviously is going to be equals to minus 10. So c1 is going to be equals to minus 10. So now that we have got the values of a1, b1, c1, so similarly now let us find out the values of a2, b2 and c2. Yes. So here 8x plus 10y plus 20 is equals to 0. Okay, so 8x plus 10y plus 20 is equals to 0. So now let us write down the values of a2, b2 and c2. Okay, so a2 is going to be equals to 8, right? Then what about b2, my dear students? What is the value of b2? Yes, it is going to be 10. And what is the value of c2? So c2 value is going to be equals to 20. Correct? So now we have got the values of a1, b1, c1, a2, b2 and c2. Okay? So now that we have got the values of a1, b1, c1 and a2, b2, c2, so let us try to find the ratio of a1 by a2, b1 by b2 and c1 by c2. Okay? Yes, let us try and calculate the values of a1 by a2, my dear students. So a1 is 4, a2 is 8. Correct? So if I reduce it, 4 1 times, 4 2 times, I am going to get the ratio as 1 by 2, or we can say 1:2. So let us find out for b1 by b2. So b1 by b2. b1 by b2 ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ? So 5 divided by 10. Again I am getting 1 by 2. Alright? And finally, let us see for c1 by c2. c1 by c2 ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Let us check. So c1 value ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಇದೆ? So it is minus 10. c2 value it is 20. Correct? So minus 10 divided by 20, this is going to be minus 1 by 2. Correct? So now it is very evident that a1 by a2 is equals to b1 by b2, but it is not equals to c1 by c2. Right? So a1 by a2 is equals to b1 by b2, but it is not equals to c1 by c2. Correct? So now my dear students, what kind of a solution is this? What do you think? So if a1 by a2 is equals to b1 by b2 but not equals to c1 by c2, what do you think the solution will be? Yes, you are right. It is going to be parallel lines. Okay, so whenever we are having such a condition, the two lines are going to be parallel lines. And for parallel lines, since they do not intersect, we can say that it is going to be having no solution. Okay, so parallel lines do not have a solution, and finally we can conclude this particular pair of linear equations in two variables, they do not have a solution. So which means the correct answer to this question, my dear students, is going to be option D. So option D, parallel lines, is going to be the answer for this particular question. Okay. So now that we have understood this interesting question, so let us move on to the next question. Alright, so now let us look at the second question of our today's session. So if the pair of lines represented by the linear equations x plus 2y minus 4 is equals to 0 and ax plus by minus 12 is equals to 0 are coincident lines. They are already telling you that they are coincident lines. Okay, then find the values of a and b. Okay, so my dear students, can anyone please tell me what is the condition for two lines to be coincident? Yes, you are absolutely right. So, if the ratio of A1 by A2 is equals to B1 by B2 is equals to C1 by C2, I am going to get two lines are coincident. So, if the ratio of A1 by A2 is equals to B1 by B2 is equals to C1 by C2, I am going to get coincident lines. Okay, so again we'll start with the basics. We'll write down the values of A1, B1, C1, A2, B2, C2, and then let us proceed. Okay, so now let us proceed. So for the first question, what is the first linear equation? So x plus 2y minus 4 is equals to 0. Okay. So now let us write down the values of a1, b1 and c1. Okay. So a1 is going to be equals to 1. Okay. So the coefficient of x, if there is nothing, there will always be 1. Correct. Then the coefficient of y, b1 is going to be equals to, yes, it is going to be 2, my dear students. What about c2? So C2 again is going to be minus. Okay. So A1, B1 and yeah. So this is C1. Okay. So C1 is going to be equals to minus. Okay. So similarly, let us now write down the. Okay. So now similarly, let us write down the values of A2, B2 and C2 for the other equation. Okay. So the second equation is there. So it is ax plus by minus 12 is equals to 0. Okay? So let us now write down the values of a2, b2 and c2. So what is the value of a2, my dear students? A2 value is going to be a. What is the value of b2? B2 value is going to be b. And what is the value of c2? C2 value is going to be minus 12. Yes, absolutely correct. You have to write the values along with their signs. Okay. So always remember. So ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ equation ನ values ಬರೀತಿರುವಾಗ ಅದರ sign ಜೊತೆ ಬರೀಬೇಕು. Okay. So that is how to write the values of a1, b1, c1, a2, b2 and c2. Okay. So now let us come back and let us, like they already told us that these two equations are coincident, which means a1 by a2 is equals to b1 by b2 is equals to c1 by c2. So let us use this condition and let us try to find the values of a, b and let us finish the question. Okay. So now since they told us that a1 by a2 is equals to b1 by b2 is equals to c1 by c2. So let us now substitute all the values of a1, b1, c1, a2, b2 and c2. Okay. So what is a1, my dear students? It is 1. Then what about a2? It is a. Then what about b1? b1 is 2, right? Then b2 is b. What about c1? c1 is minus 4 and c2 is minus 12. Okay, so now I can equate these two. Okay, so I can equate these two and I can find the values of a, and similarly I can equate these two and I can find the value of b. Okay, so first I'll just equate the first ratio to the third ratio, and again I'll equate the second ratio to the third ratio to find the value of a and b. Okay, yes, 1 upon a is equals to minus 4 upon minus 12. Correct? So minus minus cancel agbidutte. So 4 1 times, 4 3 times. Correct? So 1 upon a is equals to 1 upon 3. So cross multiply So 1 into 3 is 3, 8 to 1 is A, so the value of A is going to be, yes, 3. So value of A in Sindhu Makale, so we got it as 3. Okay, so similarly, let us try and find the value of B. Okay, so 2 upon B is equals to again minus 4 upon minus 12. So again minus minus gets cancelled, 4 1 times, 4 3 times. So 2 by B is equals to 1 by 3. So cross multiply, B into 1 is B, 2 into 3 is going to be 6. So now I have obtained the values of A and B. Okay. So using the given condition, we can easily figure out what are the values of A and B by just looking at the given question. Okay. We have to first understand, like adakkinta modalu we have to remember the condition. Coincident lines ge ಏನು condition ಇರುತ್ತೆ, parallel lines ge ಏನು condition ಇದೆ, intersecting lines ge ಯಾವ ತರ condition ಇದೆ. If we know all of this, so solving these types of questions is going to be really very easy. Okay. So now that we have understood this question, so the values of A and B we have obtained. So how to verify whether our answers are correct or not? Okay. So what do you do, my dear students? You have to just put these values of A and B in the second equation and just check if the ratios of A1 by A2 is equals to B1 by B2 is equals to C1 by C2. And yes, if they are all equal, what you can conclude is that your answer is absolutely correct. Okay, so that is how you verify the given answers. Okay, so now let us move on towards next question. Okay, so I hope you all taken this down. Okay, so now let us move on towards our next question. Okay, so now let us solve the next important question of our today's session. So solve the pair of linear equations 3x plus y is equals to 12 and x plus y is equals to 6. Okay. So my dear students, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವ ಮೆಥಡ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವು ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಿರಿ ಅಂತ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. They haven't mentioned any methods. They haven't specified any methods to find the solution of these types of questions. So what do we do in that case? So either you use the substitution method or the elimination method or the cross multiplication method to find the answers of the given pair of linear equations. Okay? Yes. So now let us write down the equations once again. So 3x plus y is equals to 12. Correct? So let us consider this be our first equation and the second equation. X plus y is equals to 6. Very good. So now that we have written these two equations, so now let us try and use our substitution method to solve this question. Okay? Yes. So what I'll do is, from the second equation, okay, so what I'll do is, I'll express x in terms of y and I'll put it in equation number 1. Okay? So let me consider this as equation number 1, this is equation number 2. So what I'll do is, my dear students, I'll express x in terms of y and then what I'll do is, I'll substitute it back in equation number 1. Okay? Yes. Tell me how will I do that, my dear students? X will be equals to, I'll just take this y on the other side. So plus y comes to the other side becomes, yes, minus y. So x is equals to 6 minus y. Okay? So now that we've understood what is the value of x, let us put this value of x in equation number 1. Okay? So substitute x is equals to 6 minus y in equation 1. Okay? So now let us substitute the value of x in equation 1. Okay? Wherever x is there, I am going to put it as 6 minus y. Okay? So 3. So wherever x is there, I am going to put 6 minus y. So 6 minus y plus y is equals to 12. Okay? So wherever x was there, I have substituted the value of x as 6 minus y. Okay. So now you just multiply this together, right? So whatever is there outside, I have to multiply it into the bracket. So 3 into 6, this will be nothing but 18. Then 3 into minus 5 is going to be minus 3y. Then plus 5 as it is equals to 12. Correct? So now it is just a matter of simplification, my dear students. So 18 you keep it as it is. So minus 3y plus y, what is it going to be? Is it minus 2y or plus 2y? Yes, it is going to be minus 2y because, so whenever we are having two integers of opposite signs, you just subtract the smaller integer from the bigger integer and keep the sign of the bigger integer. Okay? So minus 3y plus y is going to give you minus 2y is equals to 12. Okay? So now what we do? We just have to take this minus 2y on this side and plus 12 on this side, so that the numericals are on one side and the term involving the variable is on the other side of the equation. Okay? Yes. So what I'll do is I'll keep 18 as it is. So plus 12 goes on the left hand side, becomes minus 12, and minus 2y comes to the right hand side and becomes plus 2y. So now what is 18 minus 12? Very simple, 6. So 6 is equals to 2y. So now it's very simple. So you have to find the values of y. So 2 is multiplied with y here. If it goes on the other side, it becomes divide. So 6 divided by 2, you are going to get the value of y. This implies the value of y is going to be equals to 3. So we have got the value of y which is going to be equals to 3. Correct? So now what we can do is either we can substitute the value of y in equation 1 or equation 2, or else better you can substitute it in this equation where we have expressed x in terms of y. Okay? So this would be much simpler, my dear students. So even if you substitute it in equation 1 or 2, then also you will be getting the same answer, but you can just simplify it here because this is very simple. X equals to x minus y, you just put the value of y. Okay? So now, since x is equals to 6 minus y, so wherever y is there, I will just put it as 3. Okay? So x is equals to 6 minus 3. So the value of x, we are going to get it as. Correct? So now we can easily, like we have already figured out what are the values of x and y, and how do we again verify our answer. So put the values of x and y in the given equations and check whether it is going to be equals to the RHS. Okay? So let us check for one. Okay? So let us check for one equation. You can do for the other equation as well. So 3 into, what is the value of x? It is 3 plus y. What is the value of y? It is again 3. So let us check whether we are going to get 12 or not. So 3 into 3 is 9. 9 plus 3. Yes, I am going to get the answer as 12. Which means our values of x and y are absolutely perfect. Okay, so that is how you can verify your answers in your examination. Okay. Yes, this is a very interesting question because like here we do not have any methods which have been specified. So you can use either substitution method, elimination method, or the cross multiplication method, and even better you can use the graphical method to find the solution. Okay? But how are you going to differentiate for which question? How are you going to like solve it? Okay? So depending upon the weightage of marks, my dear students, you have to utilize the methods. Okay? So otherwise, most of the times the method will be mentioned in the question. But since this question has no method involved which has not been specified, either you can use any of these methods and you can find the solution. Okay? So we got x is equals to 3 and y is equals to 3. Okay? So now let us move on to the next question. Alright, so the next important question that we have today is, if the pair of linear equations in two variables are inconsistent, then how many solutions do they have? Okay? So let us now recall the concept of consistency and inconsistency of pair of linear equations in two variables. Okay. So when do we say that a pair of linear equations is going to be consistent? Do you know when is it going to be consistent, my dear students? So the answer to this question is really very simple. So whenever a pair of linear equations has a solution, it can be unique solution or infinitely many solutions, then we can say that a pair of linear equations is going to be consistent. Okay, so let me write down the answer for this. So when do we say that a pair of linear equations is consistent? When they have a solution. When the pair of linear equations, when the pair of linear equations have a solution. So ಯಾವಾಗ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ, ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಪೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಓಕೆ, ಆ ಪೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು x ಮತ್ತೆ y ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಈಕ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ಪೇರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಯೂನಿಕ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಫೈನೈಟ್ಲಿ ಮೆನಿ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. ಓಕೆ, ಬಟ್ ಏನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು, ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. I have to have a solution to call it as consistent. If I am having a solution, then it is consistent, and conversely, if I am not having any solution, then it is called inconsistent. Okay? So inconsistent andre, so a pair of linear equations ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, it is going to be inconsistent. When, you can just make a note of this, my dear students, when the pair of linear equations does not have a solution, does not, solution illappa antandre we call it as inconsistent. Does not have a solution, we call it inconsistent. We call it inconsistent. Okay, so that is what we mean by consistent and inconsistent pair of linear equations. Question ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, if the pair of equations in two variables are consistent, then how many solutions do they have? Okay, so inconsistent andre yava ರೀತಿಯ solution ಇರಲ್ಲ. So the answer to this question is really very simple. So there are no solutions. Okay, so the answer to this question is there are no solutions for a pair of linear equations which are inconsistent. Okay, if they are consistent, I can have a unique solution, or else I can have infinitely many solutions. Correct? But if they are inconsistent, they do not have a solution. Okay, so this was a very interesting question, and you can now differentiate which pair of lines are going to have consistent solutions and which pair of lines are going to have inconsistent solutions. Can you tell me, my dear students, which pair of equations will have consistent solutions? Yes, you are absolutely right. So intersecting lines have a unique solution. I can say that intersecting lines are consistent pair of solutions. Correct? Like they are consistent pair of equations. And what about coincident lines? Yes, absolutely correct. So coincident lines are also considered as consistent pair of linear equations because they have infinitely many solutions. Correct? But what about parallel lines? Parallel lines don't even meet. Correct? So they are like going in the, like we can say they are never going to meet. Correct? So since they do not meet, they do not have a solution, and we consider those as inconsistent pair of linear equations. Correct? So I hope the concept of consistent and inconsistent pair of linear equations is clear. So now let us move ahead towards our next question. Alright, so let's see the next question, my dear students. Solve the given pair of linear equations by elimination method, right? So in the previous question, we solved a question where there was no method specified, okay? But most of the times in your exam, they will be mentioning the method that you need to use, okay? Either it can be the substitution method or the elimination method, or it can be the cross multiplication method, okay? So now let us start solving this using the elimination method. So now can anyone please tell me how do I start with this? So what should I see first? Yes, absolutely correct. So firstly we are going to check whether the coefficients of x are they same or the coefficients of y are they same. If they are same, we will either add or subtract to eliminate one variable, and if they are not the same, let's see what we can do, right? So let us write down the equations once again. So 2x plus y is equals to 8. Correct? Then the second equation, x minus y is equals to 1. Okay? So let me call this as equation number 1. Let me call this as equation number 2. Yes, let us see the coefficients of x, my dear students. What are the value coefficients of x? So here the coefficient of x is 2, here the coefficient of x is 1. So clearly the coefficients of x are not the same, right? So let us say coefficient of y. Yes, so here the coefficient of y is plus 1 in equation 1, whereas in equation 2 the coefficient of y is minus 1. Gosh, we just hope that if it was plus 1, you would have easily cancelled it out, correct? Yes, let us now try to make the coefficients of x or y the same by multiplying the given equations with a suitable number. Okay? So what I will do is I will just make the coefficients of y same by multiplying equation 1 by minus 1. So y into minus 1 will be minus y, correct? And I will just keep the equation 2 as it is by multiplying it by plus 1. Okay, so let us see what will happen to equations 1 and 2. So minus 1 into 2x is minus 2x, then plus y into minus 1 is minus y is equals to 8. Right? Now, what happens to equation number 2? So it remains the same. X minus y is equals to 1. So now see, my dear students, the coefficients of y are the same. So here also I am having minus 1, here also I am having minus 1. Minus 1 is there. Now we can easily add or subtract. Correct? So what I will do is I will subtract these two equations. And whenever we are subtracting, please remember we have to change the signs. Okay? So this is plus x, it becomes minus x. This is minus y, it becomes plus y. This is plus 1, this becomes minus 1. Right? So now, what all things gets cancelled? Let us see that. So plus y minus y gets cancelled. Right? So now what are we left with? We are left with, so minus 2x minus x. What is it going to be? It is going to be, yes, minus 3x. Very good. So minus 3x is equals to, so now this is going to be 8 minus 1. Correct? So what is 8 minus 1? It's 7. Correct? So now we have got the value of, the value of y we have eliminated. So now we are having minus 3x is equals to 7. This is a linear equation in one variable. Now we know how to find the value of the variable. Correct? So the value of x is going to be equals to 7 divided by minus 3. So x na value ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ? It is going to be 7 divided by minus 3. or else you can also write it as minus 7 divided by. Okay. So now that we have got the value of x, put the value of x in either equation 1 or equation 2 to find the value of y. Okay. So now let us put the value of x in equation number 2 because it's much simpler when compared to equation number 1. Okay. So what is equation 2? It is x minus y is equals to 1. Correct? So what is the value of x? X value is the it is minus 7 divided by 3. So x value is minus 7 divided by 3. Minus y is equals to 1. Okay? I just want the value of y. So what I'll do, I'll take this on this side and 1 on this side. Okay? So we'll just transpose. So minus 7 by 3. So plus 1 comes on this side becomes minus 1 is equals to plus y. So if there is nothing in the denominator, there is always 1. Find the LCM. It is going to be 3 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 3. So minus 7 into 1 is minus 7. Minus 1 into 3 is minus 3 is equals to y. So now what is minus 7 minus 3? It is minus 10. Okay, so most of the students get confused and they write plus 21. No, not at all. So it is just addition of two negative numbers. So we know addition of two positive numbers. For example, 3 plus 7. So 3 is also positive, 7 is also positive. 3 plus 7, 10. Correct? But what is minus 6? What is minus 7 minus 3? It is going to be minus 10. Okay? So we keep the sign as it is. Minus 10 divided by 3 is the value of y. And that is how you have arrived at the value of x as well as the values of y. Okay? So that is how you can calculate. Again, what you can do, my dear students, just to verify your answer, put the values of x and y in either equation 1 or equation 2 to find out whether your answers are correct or not. Okay? So yes, that was all about our today's class where we have solved some interesting questions. Okay? In the next class, let us try and discuss some more questions on the topic pair of linear equations in two variables. Okay? Until then, see you. Have a good day.